it's almost like the American dream is to go out, fulfill your desires. You can do them. They're just within the reach of your fingertips if you just try hard enough.
Go out and get it.
You can get it, but you got to want it, and you got to push, and you're only a few steps away.
Yeah.
And the great saints, the great sages, or the Eastern thought, Buddhism also, it's just sort of like, no, actually, it's all those desires that are causing your pain.
Right.
You got to put a cap on your desires.
Right.
We think to have unlimited desire means unlimited options. And then it gives us, and a lot of times our desires are left unfulfilled. So we always feel like I'm not living up to my potential, or my life is a failure. We equate sometimes our failure with fulfilling our desires.
Right.
And then life is a failure. And we put so much worth on, I didn't get it. I didn't accumulate it. And the whole idea within the yoga system is you try your hardest for something and you let go.
Yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from the Govardhan Eco Village in beautiful Maharashtra, India. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator of the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Govardhan Eco Village. And we are sitting in the Maharaj room today, aren't we?
It's their brand new podcast studio.
Yeah, and whenever something's new in India, you know what they do? They do a puja. They do a special ritual, like in honor of it, to make sure all auspicious things happen here. So me and Meher were downstairs at the Mridanga class, and they're like, "Oh, Raghunath, Goranga wants to show you something." I was like, "Okay, I'm in the middle of a class. I'll be up there in 10 minutes. Is that yes? That's fine. Come up here. There's like a huge meeting going on." I was like, "Let's be quiet. There's a meeting going on." He goes, "No, this is for you. This meeting. You're part of this meeting." I was like, "Oh." It's like Jay Shetty was there, his wife, his family, Radha Swami. Me and Mara come in exhausted, sweating. And they're having this puja for this room that we're in. They built a podcast room, realizing that online education is also the future of spreading the holy name.
That's right.
And we're here to inaugurate it.
This is the first podcast done in the new podcast studio.
Yeah, this is
with
what this is.
Beautiful deity of Lord Vāmana and Mother Earth.
Can they see that?
They can see it.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's a little small between us. You got to lower that thing
us.
there. So Raghu can see. See?
But there it is.
Yeah.
There's Varahadev behind us. And some cool type of Bodhi banyan tree with Jai Radhe painted up there too.
And elephants.
And auspicious elephants. How are you, Kaustubha?
Very good. Very happy to be here. Very happy that you all arrived.
Got a good group this year.
Wonderful group so
Sweet
far.
group.
More still to come.
More coming on the 12th.
Yeah.
Linda's here, live. Gita Priya's here. Welcome back, Gita Priya, Harry Ball.
Everybody's here.
And of course, Miss Mara's in the orchestra pit, knitting away, just directing things.
Okay.
All right. So,
are there some announcements today?
Yeah. Our show is going to be at 6 a.m. Eastern time the rest of this week. Is that even on the weekends? Even on the weekends.
People. You asked
Rise
for
and
it.
shine.
You got it now.
Yeah. We were doing 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Sometimes you guys were like, come on. Raghunath, you're in Maya. You know what? Enough of you. 6 a.m. then. 6 a.m. Wake up. You want to join this live Zoom? You get out of Maya. Wake up. Don't hit snooze anymore. Snooze is the first step towards ruining your day. It's starting your day off by saying, for my first move of the day, I'm going to procrastinate. Okay, Kaustubha, we're going to...
Are there more announcements? That's it.
That was it. That's our announcement.
Keeping it tight today. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Keep it.
All right, this is a new year. Let's do it.
2025
I guess
is our
we
first.
kind of did on the first for us, but it was New Year's Eve for everyone else.
Yeah, it's the first one for us. And you know what? This is auspicious because it was 5 years ago yesterday we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So we start our 6th year.
Yeah. 5th year.
6th.
I don't understand how this works. Okay.
When it's done, it'll
All right.
be 6 complete. But
Okay.
now we're starting
so it's day
the
1
6th.
of year 6.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. And today we're going to hit like one of the big verses in Bhagavatam, like one that we bring up a lot, We're finally going to reach it. I
Oh.
think it'll be a a really good conversation.
That one.
Yeah, that's the one. I
I
think
didn't know the words. I just
Okay.
like ta-tang, ta-tum, pum,
I got the nugget over.
ta-da-da-da-da-da.
I got the nugget over
Okay.
here now. So, but first we can read the nugget, which is related to the verse that we'll read. But here you can see the nugget over here, Raghunath. See?
Oh, the Benjamin Franklin one. Yes, I
Okay,
love this
okay.
one. Contentment makes poor men rich. Discontentment makes rich men poor.
Or
Contentment makes poor men rich. Discontentment makes a rich man poor.
Yeah.
I like that. What does that bring up in your life, in your brain?
well, it's challenging ways that we normally see things. You know, we're programmed. We weren't you and I. We were not brought up in a culture that sufficiently valued talking about wisdom. I think we with so many hours were spent on trivial things. So much, we were fed so many hours and hours and hours of unimportant content in our life.
Yeah.
And what wasn't stressed, right? It should have been stressed right from the beginning, like what wasn't stressed was let's look at life from different angles. Let's look at how great thinkers thought about life. There
Mm.
really wasn't a lot of that. We weren't really brought. You had to kind of search that kind of stuff out if you're
Sure.
going to find it. So, we're kind of brought up thinking, let me try to find contentment or satisfaction by acquiring the external things that cause it.
Right.
And great thinkers have, thought about it a lot, observed the world, observed their own experience, and come to a different conclusion.
Mm.
That it's not that contentment comes from achieving external causes for it, but rather that contentment comes from becoming detached. And through detachment, you let go of all that's in the way of your experiencing contentment, which is actually inside yourself.
Mm.
So that's just a completely different way of a completely different approach to life. Everybody's looking for contentment. Everybody wants to be satisfied. Everybody's searching for it in different ways. And it's just a way of saying, maybe we're going about this all wrong, and here's Benjamin Franklin saying it. We can find the Stoic philosophers saying it. We can find, throughout history, different great thinkers saying it. And today, we'll read about it, and it's there in the Bhagavatam, that's being said.
Yeah, it's almost like the American dream is to go out, fulfill your desires. You
Yeah.
can do them. They're just within the reach of your fingertips if you just try hard enough.
Go out and get it.
You can get it, but you got to want it, and you got to push,
Yeah.
and you're only a few steps away.
Yeah.
And the great saints, the great sages, or the Eastern thought, Buddhism also, it's just sort of like, no, actually, it's all those desires that are causing your pain.
Right.
You got to put a cap on your desires.
Right.
We think to have unlimited desire means unlimited options. And then it gives us, and a lot of times our desires are left unfulfilled. So we always feel like I'm not living up to my potential, or my life is a failure. We equate sometimes our failure with fulfilling our desires.
Right.
And then life is a failure. And we put so much worth on, I didn't get it. I didn't accumulate it. And the whole idea within the yoga system is you try your hardest for something and you let go.
Yeah. We've been fed different, you could say, models of success, different ideas,
Yeah.
We've been given different visions of success. Maybe it's the cowboy taking over the West, go out there and conquer it, or other types of material success, through wealth or whatever it might be. And then there's this Eastern idea that's just a very, very different idea. I remember hearing, I believe it was Yamuna Devi talking about when the first of Prabhupada's disciples went to London
Mhm.
To teach Bhakti Yoga for the first time there. And before long, they connected with the Beatles. And shortly after that, they were all staying with John Lennon in his home in this, what do you call it? Tittenhurst, which is like an estate and a mansion and all of that.
You got a serious house when they give it a name. Welcome to Tittenhurst.
Super Soul Farm.
Welcome to Super Soul Farm.
So at one, she said she overheard Yoko Ono speaking to John Lennon about Prabhupada, because there was John Lennon on this massive estate, right?
Mm.
But still, struggling to find happiness in life, often dissatisfied in different ways. And she looked at Srila Prabhupada and she turned to John Lennon and said, "Could you be satisfied so simply as him? He's just flopping anywhere. He doesn't have a home. He's
Yeah.
just moving from one place to the next, speaking his message, living out of a suitcase. Could you be so happy living so simply?" And that's kind of that idea is kind of, enshrined in the Eastern mind of success. Someone being satisfied with nothing, being satisfied
Yeah.
sitting under a tree, sleeping under the tree, like what if we had what if we even just brought that into the conversation, like as that is a possible idea of what success is. And you could put those two models together and say, well, you know what, I like to go out and get it, go out and get it model myself. Okay, fine, but see if it actually works. And also see how well it works as you get older, and all the energy
Expended.
has expended. Are you going to be able to find satisfaction? Or are you going to find that even though you got all the things you thought you needed to get, even though you achieved all the experiences you wanted to achieve, it's all slipping away now, and a deep, dark sense of discontentment is beginning to cloud over your life. Whereas if you flip to the Eastern model, it's kind of like it doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, as your realizations and your internal satisfaction, this is the whole point, right? The internal satisfaction is not in any way dependent on any external circumstance. Therefore, it's more solid. It's more real. Whereas the other one is like a dream. It's here one moment and then it's gone.
Imagine, once you get a Tittenhurst, if you desired it for so long and you've saved and
you look
purchased
so
a
right,
Tittenhurst.
just in this setting with your mustache, speaking about Tittenhurst.
Welcome to Tittenhurst. Good day. I'm getting a lot of mustache love here at the Govardhan Eco Village.
Okay, so once you get your Tittenhurst,
Once you get your Tittenhurst, then you got to worry about maintaining a Tittenhurst.
Sure.
At Super Soul Farm, it's like we've got this like big. I'm only one guy and I'm not good at many things. I could barely plunge a toilet. You know what I mean? And then you get something that's got, there's a leak here. Oh, there's a light socket out here. The thermostat's not working. Is it the thermostat or is it the zone, the heat zone that's not working? It's like, it can go from one problem after another. And unless you have a live-in maintenance person, it can get overwhelming. And then of course there's the grounds. You don't have to worry about this. If you're living very simply, you got a tree that goes down. That tree goes down, that's like 400 hours of cleanup time.
Then there's
either you're going to do, or you're going to pay a team of people with $4,000 to clean up.
Then there's the horses, the hounds.
Yeah. So sometimes here you fulfilled one desire, but it costs so many more complications.
Right.
And it's hard because we want to enjoy unlimitedly, because it's almost like our spiritual nature calling in. It's not like it's a bad thing. It's actually our real thing. We want to enjoy this, but we can't, and we don't have the facility to do it within this body. The real pleasure is in a deep spiritual joy. At one point I was living in New York City. I had my apartment in New York City and I had a house upstate, and it was it's sort of like the New Yorker's dream where you got both. You can have both. You can go in the city and you're going to go upstate, and you go in the city and upstate. But my consciousness can never be in both places. Like when I was in the city, I was worried about like, is everything okay up there? Is there a leak? You get a leak and you don't know about that leak, you got serious problems. That leak in 24 hours can cause $10,000, $20,000 worth of damage. Right. And then you got to work. So, and when you're upstate, you're thinking about
your illegal sublet down in New York.
Thinking about my illegal sublet going on.
You're never going to get caught.
So it's almost like I want to enjoy unlimitedly, but there's limitations to how much I can enjoy.
Right.
And of course, there's other limitations too, like my resources. Like I've seen some people pull it off, live upstate and downstate, but they have the resources to do it, or have a house here and a house in Hawaii, and they have the resources. But it's a real drain of resources. And then we watch someone like Raghunath Swami, who he himself has no resources, but he has a very focused spiritual vision. And with that very focused spiritual vision, it sort of sends this echo effect around, and it reverberates and touches so many souls that say, I want to jump on this vision. I want to jump on this vision. I want to jump on this vision. And so you have all of a sudden people with resources, people with, Ron Swan will joke himself. He'll say, I'm a high school dropout. I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
But he's got vision and he's got deep spiritual devotion. And so then he attracts all these scientists. He attracts the very wealthy. He attracts people who just want to be part of something. He attracts cooks and chefs and farmers.
Yeah.
And they all want to, and doctors, and they want to start hospitals and expand this place into educational centers and a culinary educational center and, restaurants. And
Nothing with his name on it.
he doesn't even care about his name on it.
Yeah.
He just has a vision to serve.
Right.
And so sometimes, and you're also not as implicated because you're a lot less detached. You're a lot more detached when you realize I'm just trying to serve, and success or failure is in Krishna's hands. But you see, when a person has that strong desire to be connected, then so much magic happens. Resources come out of nowhere at the 11th hour. You see that magic. When you have that dependence on Krishna, you see magic happen all around you. And sometimes if you're in one of these states, and this is a good one for everybody out there who's going through it right now, because sometimes we go through it and we're really trying to do the right thing. You should understand, if you're in that destitute position, that's the time to watch the magic happen in your life. Because at any moment in that destitution, if you say, oh, Krishna, I don't understand what's going on. What would you like from me? I thought I had it under control, but I realized, Krishna, it's only up to you at this point. What would you like? And then you just see, you become, you start to attract Krishna's mercy, and you really realize how your life is in divine hands.
The poor man becomes rich.
And the poor man becomes rich.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Tied that right back in there, sir.
Okay. All right, Raghu. So you ready to get into it?
I was already in it. That was
Okay.
it.
Well,
I'm in it, man.
All right, we're done.
We're done.
Came early, but
I'm
finished early as well.
I meet a lot of wisdom of sages people here on this trip.
A lot of wisdom of the sages people.
Not our
people not
people,
in our
but
group,
like
but
just
that-
people at the Govardhan Eco Village.
I've been meeting some really sweet people. People in sage groups that I never knew about. People that listen to the podcast every day. Yeah.
I saw your good friend Kayla Woods.
He's here? I haven't seen
He's
him
here.
yet. Okay.
He's here.
Wonderful. All right, you're
All right.
ready to chant the mantras?
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyanat Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet.
Okay.
Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Where are we at? Special K.
Canto 8, chapter 19. The last text we read was text 17. And I think we ought to revisit that one before we continue on. Now, remember the setting?
No.
A while ago. You were on the other side of the earth.
That was a different part of the earth, a different year,
Okay.
a different month.
Okay, fair enough.
I remember nothing.
Okay.
As I'm getting older, I remember less and less.
All right. So we had this fascinating scene. I would really love to see like a really high level film of this.
Well, you have the paid chat GBT now. You can just
Yes.
create it. He's sending me all these things. He says something, And then he creates it on ChatGPT and sends it to me.
No, because in the last
Yes,
podcast,
he does.
it was
You're like, no, yes.
no, in the last podcast,
First, just say yes to that.
Say
Is
yes
what
to
you've
what?
been doing.
I did it like on one
Two.
conversation that we had.
Too.
No, what happened was in the last podcast we talked about if a UFO were hovering over,
Yes.
and what I tried to do is create an image that could go in the thumbnail of that.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so, but I just couldn't get it right. We get it to like generate an image, the right image. But anyway, it generated a pretty cool
It
image.
was a pretty cool image. It was a pretty cool image.
So it was like these like thousands or hundreds or thousands of people on the side, like at a bathing ghat in India on the bank of a river. And then there's a team like kind of, it was more like they're doing a yagna than a kirtan, but they did have like
some type of
instruments and stuff like
religious
that.
function going on.
And
yeah.
then there was a UFO floating right over it. And I sent it to Raghunath and he wrote back saying, "You're so AI." Like I sent it to him on WhatsApp and he wrote back saying, "You're so AI." 3 seconds later, I sent a response that said, "It is a misunderstanding to claim that Kaustubha is so AI, and to propagate such an idea as Raghunath does is a grave mischaracterization. Kaustubha is not only deeply grounded in spiritual wisdom, but it also demonstrates a profound alignment with the timeless
Did
teachings
you
of
make
Bhakti
that up or did AI make that up?
You didn't understand that?
Why I got it. It sounded AI, but
No, I didn't write
did
all
AI
that.
right? Oh,
I didn't write all that in
That's
3 seconds.
unbelievable.
I just gave it a prompt and it
You gave it a
immediately pumped it
prompt.
out. Yeah.
All right, I gotta screw around with AI.
All right. But in any case,
In any case, what?
where we were at the Bhagavatam was that Lord Vishnu incarnated as the beautiful little brahmachari, little beautiful
Okay.
monk, as a beautiful little monk, as a beggar, with the mission of taking the whole universe back from the demons, right? Like he didn't come
An
back as
extravagant plan.
he didn't come back as like a powerful warrior, wielding an axe and so on. He came as a beautiful little beggar, little monk beggar. And he just walked into the scene of the demons who were performing Vedic rituals to maintain their possession of power over the universe. So he kind of showed up right as they were trying to solidify their material position. He walked in there not to take it over by force, but to ask for it all back. And he was playing on Bali, who was the head of the whole demons team. He was playing on his inclination to be dharmic, to satisfy a qualified sadhu, a qualified spiritual person. If they come and ask me for something, I give it. That's what I do.
Good name for a band, the Dharmic Demons.
The dharmic demons. And so what happens is he walks Lord Vishnu as Vāmana Dev, the little brahmachari. He walks in there and he doesn't just look beautiful. He's actually emanating like a divine aura, like a divine glow. So he's absolutely stunning to see. Just walking into the scene, it's like I've never seen another being anything like this. And he says to him, "Ask me what you want. Tell me what it is that you want, and I will give it to you." And so he replies that I only want 3 steps of land, right? And we're going to hear some back and forth about why are you asking me for so little? I could give you so much. Why are you asking me for so little? So that's the conversation that we're having right now. But if we look at text 17 again, it says, "O king," so this is Vāmana Dev speaking to Bali, "O king, control of the entire universe, although you are very munificent and are able to give me as much land as I want, I do not want anything from you that is unnecessary." So he's doing 2 things at once here, right? He's winning the universe back for the devas, for the demigods. But in doing so, he's sharing teachings of wisdom of exactly what we're talking about today. That would reverberate into history for centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. And people like the Stoic philosophers or Abe Lincoln would kind of catch on to it so many centuries later. It's originating from these kind of teachings that go back farther than any of those other philosophers. We find them first here in Sanskrit. He's going to speak those teachings so that we can hear them so many centuries later. And he says, I do not want anything from you that's unnecessary. That's the wise person, right? I don't need to accumulate anything that's unnecessary. If a learned Brahmana takes charity from others only according to his needs, and this is the way Prabhupada translated it. It says he does not become entangled in sinful activities. Okay, now I think Prabhupada was accustomed because he was raised, taught in schools by Western Christian professors.
Right.
So
this word sinful comes up a lot.
because he's saying, okay, if this is the way the Westerners speak, then I'll speak their language and I'll say sinful. Yeah. So I looked it up and it says,
You looked up the Sanskrit?
yeah, in the Sanskrit, it says this naina prapnoti va vidvan yavad artha pratigraha. A learned Brahmana takes charity only within the boundaries of his needs. Okay, this is what he's saying. That if you're actually a learned person, you don't take what's beyond the boundaries of what you need. And in this way, you do not become entangled. Now, Prabhupada said sinful, but this word aina is the word that he translated that way. It can, the first definition I found in the Sanskrit dictionary was more like how Prabhupada translated mischief, crime, sin, offense, fault, blame. You become worthy of blame. You commit a crime.
Yeah.
If you take more than you need. But I also found that the next definition was unhappiness, misfortune, calamity. So another way to translate this is a learned person takes charity only within the bounds of their own needs. And in this way, they remain free from distress.
Yeah. So it's sort of like when you use the word sinful, first of all, it puts you in this position of here is God again as this
Judge.
This horrible judge
With
who's
arbitrary standards.
Yeah, there's some standards, and he's going to punish you for just being a jerk.
Yeah.
For being sinful. So you're going to get slapped around by God.
Took a little too much.
Took a little too much. Okay, going to wrap the ruler on your knuckles.
Yeah.
But here it says it's actually causing you your own pain. You cause your own pain by your activities because you're acting just like if I was to, I use this example a lot, take a shotgun and shoot out the tires of my car. God didn't do it to me. It's just it's a foolish idea. Now my car is just not going to work that well.
Yeah.
But I did it to myself. And I'm going to have to take responsibility for that and stop blaming God, an external source, which is what we think of naturally when we say sinful. Yeah. It's going over, it's passing through the guardrails, not staying in my lane, so to speak. And then I'm causing all types of trouble. Yeah. I want to drive across the double line. You can do it, but you're setting yourself up for disaster.
In the word for word translation, he translated aina as distress. And then in the actual translation of the verse, he used the word sinful. So it was just he kind of did it both ways. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, just that we get that context that we're getting this teaching that when you we think the more that I get, the more satisfaction I'm going to find. And this is saying when you take over the boundary of your needs, what necessarily happens is we're all living in a world with limited resources. So when you take something that's more than you need, you're actually upsetting the balance.
Sure.
And the natural karmic result is that you suffer for it. You suffer some type of distress. It's just the way that the world works. This is a manual telling us how the world works. And it's the same when you go beyond that boundary, you bring distress to yourself. And a wise person senses it, feels it. When they feel some distress, rather than blaming some external source, they say, maybe I'm breaking, pushing a boundary of the universal balance. And that's why I'm feeling distress.
There are people who do have some karma that they can take on so much more than, it's not like we're all equal. We're actually all different. We all have different proclivities and strengths and weaknesses. And, you and I know people that they can manage like hundreds of people and it's easy for them. They can manage. Linda's looking at us. I can't even manage these two nut cases. But sometimes they manage 1,000 people. Sometimes they manage multiple businesses, and it's easy for them. And they get inspired by it. And I'm going to start another business on top of this business. And I meet people like this, and I'm like, I can barely make my bed in the morning. Like, how are you doing this? So we all have. So I think there is different quota for different people.
Yeah.
But even within that quota, obviously, there's some dharmic thing to do with your resources that you do that you give back with those.
No doubt.
With that.
And part of the beauty of the whole Vedic culture and the way that it kind of gives instructions for humanity is that it does it on different levels. It says, okay, if you're a married person, your boundaries are going to be bigger, but we're also going to count on you to give charity. You know, if you're a renounced person, your boundaries are going to be much smaller. You can actually receive charity. You know, it's just
Right.
like you get certain privileges and certain responsibilities.
And
You know,
certain restrictions and
yeah.
certain.
And according to who you are and where you are at a particular time of life, you can fit nicely into one of those categories and live it and use it as a way to evolve. But it's not saying here's a standard for every single person. It's more flexible, it's more adaptable than that. And wise people, like a guru, can say, okay, this is where you fit in well. Let's figure out your dharma. What is your svadharma? What is your purpose? And what will be your privileges? And what will be your responsibilities? What we're going to hold you responsible for. And the idea is those responsibilities, they work in such a way as to address your weaknesses so that you evolve through them. Like, again, if let's say you are one of those people that has the capacity to lead hundreds of people, you can create a business, and you being at the top, you're profiting way more than everybody else. You can do that. Nobody's saying you can't do that, but you have to be careful of greed. And so now everybody you should understand, and everybody else in society understands that you kind of have an obligation to
You
be
got to
careful.
purify your wealth.
You got to purify your wealth. Otherwise, you're going to bring yourself distress. Yeah. So it's very flexible and adaptable.
It's flexible. It's very, yeah.
All right.
There's room for everybody at the table
Yeah.
in evolution here.
Okay. So, ready to read verse 18?
Text 18, Balimara. This is Balimara speaking. O son of a Brahmana, your instructions are as good as those of a learned and elderly person. Nonetheless, you're a boy, and your intelligence is insufficient. Thus, you are not very prudent in regard to your self-interest.
Okay. Saying you're very young. How old he looked at that time is hard to say. But he looks like a little kid. Yeah. So he's saying you're speaking like high level wisdom here.
Yeah.
But what you're asking for is not so intelligent. You ask for 3 paces of land only.
I am able to give you an entire island because I am the proprietor of the 3 divisions of the universe. You have come to take something from me and have pleased me by your sweet words, but you're asking for 3 paces of land. Therefore, you are not very intelligent.
And here I think island means
like a planet.
Or like a planetary
universe.
system. Yeah. It's like I could give you like they look at planets or areas of galaxies almost as like islands floating in space. So when he says island, I think he's speaking about a lot more than.
Well, because if you were to look from above, the planets look like islands floating in a lake.
Yeah.
Thought I'd share that with you.
It's floating in the lake.
Floating in the lake of consciousness. The sea of eternity.
Oh. Okay. Text 20.
Text 20. Oh, small boy, one who approaches me to beg something should not have to ask for anything more anywhere. Therefore, if you wish, you may ask for me as much land as will suffice to maintain you according to your needs.
Yeah, you come to me. This is like most people don't get the opportunity to come to me. But when you do get that opportunity, you don't drop the ball.
Yeah, you cash in. You just got the lottery ticket. You came to me.
Yeah.
I give you whatever you want.
So now this is the big verse. This is a verse that drops into eternity through the mouth of Lord Vishnu as Vāmana, as this blessed little brahmachari. And this is something that reverberates through, through the centuries till now. This verse is often quoted. We've quoted it many times on this podcast over the years, but it's a beautiful verse. It's a great verse to start the year with, and think of how we want to go into the new year with considering this kind of wisdom.
The personality of God had said, "Oh, my dear king, even the entirety of whatever there may be within the three worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled.
Okay.
I just want abundance, Kaustubha. Abundance.
Yeah, you know, you do get a lot of those kind of teachings nowadays
Yeah.
with, you know, pseudo spiritual ideas that once, as a matter of fact, it's people are trying to market it so much nowadays. You
Yeah.
know, like
How? Who?
I'm gonna
Make
be
me
your
laugh.
I'm gonna be your I'm not gonna mention any names, but I'll be your coach, and I'm gonna show you how you get full on abundance. And it's a, you know, and this is deeply spiritual. This
Okay,
is
I'm
really
totally
spiritual.
into it. You mean I can engage all my spiritual activities and make lots of money from it?
That's right. You know,
Really?
and really,
And it costs nothing for me to learn that from you?
well, no, that will cost you something.
That's going to cost you. That's how I get abundance.
That's
You're
exact-
making me abundant
Yeah,
by your desire to
it's-
have abundance.
Essentially, it's a pyramid scheme.
It's a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it's
Who's
like,
ever at the top of the pyramid?
yeah, you pay me lots of money, and I'm going to show you how to convince people to give you a lot of money. You know,
See-
and the way we're going to do it is by promising people that they're going to find abundance by finding other people that are going to give them a lot of money. That's essentially what it is.
It's so sad.
It is sad, and it's a type of abuse. You know, it's a type of, I'm going to pose myself as a spiritual guide, and really, I don't care about you at all. I'm ready to tell you, like, but I don't have that much money. Well, get yourself a credit card, take more money out of the bank, or is it that you don't believe in yourself?
Oh, I think it's because you don't believe in yourself. See, this is your problem. You've always had limiting views of your actual worth. But I see it in
because
you.
of your parents.
But I see it in you.
Yeah, right. But I see
So
it.
go get and Venmo me some money right now.
Right. Yeah.
And that will be a commitment to yourself, Kaustubha.
Isn't it about time you committed to yourself?
Isn't it about
Yeah.
time you committed to
Yeah.
yourself?
So people do like that, you know, people do. And so it's really, if we're looking at these, not only Ben Franklin, not only the Stoic philosophers, but, you know, here, Lord Vishnu himself, they're giving a different message, a very different message, that no, you find contentment by limiting your so-called needs, you know, by learning to find some happiness within. Not that you're going to go out and get tons of people to give you money because you're going to tell them some kind of ridiculous story about how they should be doing the same thing. And really, the only reason it's working for you is because you're so tenacious and insensitive about how far you're willing to push people to give you their money, and you know, and how dishonest you'll be about you know, in pressurizing them and playing head games with them, really, you know. So yeah, I think there's a lot of that out there.
I think it's a lot of it right within front of our face.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, here's a different message that little Vāmana Dave says: no matter what you give me, if I'm not satisfied with controlled senses, if my senses aren't controlled, if I haven't reined them in from demanding from me more, then no matter what you give me, I'm not going to be satisfied. And that's one of the fun, even if you go to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, you find that right in the niyamas, right? The santosha, contentment. It's one of the basic fundamental aspects of the consciousness and the behavior of the yogi, is they have taken it into their life. I'm going to practice learning to be content, you know, learning to not always be seeking satisfaction through gaining more. It's fundamental. Yeah.
You know, I struggle with it in reality, though. You know, because part of me says, you know, I got to be responsible.
Yeah.
I got children, and what if there's emergencies, and you know, I
Yeah.
want to have savings, and I want to take care of my family.
And the Dharma, it gives you room to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, you feel like, well, but don't you trust God? Don't you? And I have seen people in my life that have just trusted God, and they seem to turn out quite well. You know.
Well,
So it's like, how much should I invest in security and safety, and how much should I just trust God? That is like the question today. That's the question of 2025. Am I completely dependent on God or somewhat dependent on God?
well, you know, the people are different, and for some, you know, people will come to the same path, and they'll be approaching it on different levels.
Yeah.
And a good, and that's this is where the guru is not someone that's just like smiling and and zapping you, but the guru is someone that can kind of recognize the level of your faith, and where and what it's going to take to get you to the next step, right? And so they're not, if they're going to be sensitive to where you're at, and they're going to have an idea of what you're ready to do next, what your next step is in deepening your faith. So for one disciple or one student, they may say, give up everything now. And for another student, they may say, take this next step, take this
Work
next step.
harder, build your business.
It may be build your
Yeah.
take that ambition and drive that you have. But when you go to work, don't think that you're doing it because you're going to be able to get money to buy the things that are going to make you happy, because that's not what's going to make you happy. But rather think of yourself as a servant when you go to work. That the fruits of the work are not for you. You're going to provide for your family. Why? Because providing for your family is your responsibility that you've taken on behalf of God. So by providing for your family, you're directly serving God. But also realize that your family is not limited to your genetic offspring. And so the more that you can begin to think about that, the more that you're going to spread, that's the beginning of seeing with a deeper spiritual vision, So the guru is going to be helping someone take a step. And thinking all along, okay, when this person's a little older, and even preparing for them for that, we're going to have you let go of more, let go of more, let go of more. And so you get guided along that path,
So cool.
There's I brought some stuff up.
You brought some stuff? It's like
yeah.
show and tell.
Well, kind of. This is because I think
brought some stuff. What do you
we've
got?
done this on the show before, but this santosha, it's such a good topic. I think it is a great New Year's topic too. So, of course, the Yoga Sutras, when it's given the yama and then the niyamas, that's where we find santosha. And let's see, this is from Edwin Bryant's translation, where he goes to some of the great classical commentators. Even if they're of different schools of philosophy, this kind of stuff they all share a vision on. It's not like it's not like if they might have different conceptions of like what or who is the absolute truth. Some of them may have been leaning a little towards more an Advaitic Vedantic point of view. Some of them may be leaning more towards a personalistic bhakti worldview. But these fundamentals of yoga, they all got it because they weren't cheaters. They were like they could accept the clear teachings that were coming through. Some of the more subtle theological ideas they may have different ideas about, but these yogic fundamentals they all agree on. And so you get a consensus here as you're reading, as he's kind of summarizing what the different commentators say. So I'll read a little bit of what comes in the commentary in the Yoga Sutras about santosha. Contentment, santosha, manifests as disinterest in accumulating more than one's immediate needs of life. As the Gita informs us, Bhagavad Gita, desire is the real enemy of the embodied soul, since it is never satisfied
and burns like fire.
Right? So you find that in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, why is it that we do things that we even know aren't good for us, as if we're being forced to do it? And Krishna says it's karma, right? It can be. It's
a great statement, huh? Why do we find ourselves doing things that we know are wrong, as if we're forced to?
You're being dragged by your mind. You're being dragged by your senses. It's karma. It can be translated as lust. It can be translated as desire, but it says that's our enemy, right? The workings, the kind of like virus within our own computer, within the computer of our own mind. That's your only enemy. What's going on in your mind? You don't have any real external enemy.
And the Gita is giving us the way to cure the virus.
Yeah.
You want to go in there and put one of those, what do they call it? Norden. What do you? Antivirus software. That's what it is. You got a virus. The virus is your desire, your uncontrolled desire.
Right.
It's wrecking your life. Yeah. It's quite simple. It's wrecking your life. We've got the solution for it. All you got to do is download the antivirus.
And then run it through. And so it's saying it burns like fire, meaning like it doesn't matter how much fuel you feed a fire. The fire never says, "Oh, put one more log on me so I can burn that too." and then it says, thank you very much. No,
Now I'm full. Now I'm good.
If you put another log on, it's going to burn that one, and another log is going to
Well,
burn
the
that
thing
one.
about desire, and the fire is a good analogy because, the blowing on the fire, that's one analogy used sometimes. When you blow on the fire, it does go down a little, and then it gets even bigger.
Right.
So in one sense, fulfilling all my desires, I did get that thing I wanted. I finally got it. I saved up and bought it. I just put it on the credit card, 0 down, 12 months. I don't have to pay a payment for 12 months. Or sexual, whatever it is, you know what I mean? It did. Oh, that was great, satisfying. But what happens? Then the
More.
desire flames up more,
Yeah.
and then you want it more.
It's like pouring gasoline on a fire.
Yeah. So you pour gasoline in the fire, it goes down, and then all of a sudden, whoa, it goes up, and it ignites it. And people who are really steady, and they're just really steady with sense control, the desires become like serpents, snakes without fangs.
Just a big worm.
Right? Just a big worm. Big worm.
So he continues, as the Gita informs us, desire is the real enemy of the embodied soul, since it is never satisfied and burns like fire. True happiness comes from contentment, whatever one has, not with thinking that one will be happy when one gets all that one desires. Now Shankar speaks, right? Great,
Yeah.
Founder of Advaita Vedanta, essentially. He says, even if there's some lack, says Shankar, even if you don't really quite have enough,
Yeah.
says Shankar, one thinks it is enough, right? We know people like that, right?
Yeah, sure.
They really don't have as much as a person would need to be comfortable. Still, they say it's enough, right? Or as Hari Harananda puts it, and this was always a very interesting analogy that he uses. Hari Harananda puts it this way: to avoid injury from thorns, one only has to wear one pair of shoes. One doesn't need to cover the entire earth with leather.
Ooh.
Right. So that statement, it works in many ways. I mean, but here, the way it's working is saying, like, I'm going to be satisfied when I get this desire. Oh, I'm not satisfied yet. I need that desire. Oh, I'm still not satisfied. I need to fulfill this desire and this one and this one. I'm going to need that and that, and it never ends.
Right. It's just there's some basic necessity you need.
Yeah.
Use it.
Well, it's saying if I can just this way I'm trying to find happiness. It's like if there's 1,000 thorns that I need to get past to be satisfied. Or I can just put on a pair of shoes, one act. And that one act is practicing contentment. Just through that, I satisfy all my desires. Just in one move.
I think that's why, Linda, you like your cold plunges so much. Because when you go into a position where your mind doesn't want to be there, but you do it anyway, it gives a special, besides the physical benefits that you get from a cold plunge, and it's good for inflammation, etc. It's really good for the mind to do what you don't want to do and just do it anyway, because now the mind is no longer your master.
You become the master.
You just become the master of the mind.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of the biggest benefits of it. There
you go. Then later in the Yoga Sutras, we hear what is the boon that one gets if they really embody
What is the boon?
santosha. Well, for santosha, it's a big boon.
Oh yeah, it's a big boon.
It's
I want
a big boon. In other words, if we're doubtful, saying, okay, I get it, it makes sense what you're saying, but am I really going to be happy? Like, okay, I get it that the external things don't bring satisfaction, but am I going to be happy if I give them all up?
Yeah.
So it says, from contentment, the highest happiness is attained.
Really?
And then here's the commentary on that. So Vyas, one of the commentators, Vyas limits his comments here to quoting a verse. The verse says, whatever happiness there may be in enjoyment in this world, and whatever greater happiness there may be in the celestial world.
Ooh, imagine that. The celestial happiness.
You always let me hear. Well, that happiness that you're imagining right now, it does not amount to 1/16 of the happiness attained from the cessation of desire.
I like how pick that random number, 116.
Maybe it's not random.
Yeah.
Vijnana Bhikshu, another commentator, reminds us of a similar verse in the Taittiriya Upanishad 11.8, quoted fully in 2.5 of this commentary, that the bliss of Brahman
Mm.
is countless times greater
Mm.
than that experienced by the most fortunate of embodied beings.
Mm.
He explains that when hankering is removed, the chitta, our faculty of awareness, the chitta becomes content. Santosha, as indicated in this sutra. Sattva thus becomes undisturbed, and the highest happiness, anuttama sukha, which is inherent in the nature of sattva, manifests spontaneously. At other times, the innate happiness of sattva is covered by tamas. This sattvic happiness does not depend on external objects, which are vulnerable and fleeting, but is inherent in the mind when it is tranquil and contented. So
Nice.
the yogis are saying these are people that have
Nice.
experienced it, like they're speaking from their experience. That this is real. It's at the other end of the tunnel. You just got to walk through it. Yeah. Well, maybe you could read from Prabhupada's commentary.
Sure. I was just thinking about like a kid on Christmas but when we were little, we used to have like, a Bradley's catalog or a Sears catalog, and you were just like circling all these things.
Penny.
I want this J.C. Penney catalog. I want this. I want this. My mom, of course, never bought me anything. We just had
green stamps.
We just never had that much dynamic Christmases at the Capo household. But I had desires, and I wanted this and this and this and this. And sometimes when you do get that desire fulfilled, it's just sort of like, how long do you play with that game for?
Did you get a big wheel?
I never got a big wheel.
Me neither.
Never got a big wheel. Yeah, it's just sad.
Let it go, Russ.
Sad.
Let it go.
Okay.
Commentary right there.
Commentary. All my neighbors had big wheels, so I didn't have one. Why wouldn't they buy me one? Was I not good enough? And so Raghunath's therapy begins. I'll prove to them. I'll get up on stage and travel the world to prove to them I have worth. The personality of Godhead said of the commentary. The material world is an illusory energy to deviate the living entities from the path of self-realization. Boom! What a heavy statement that is.
Heavy.
The material world is an illusory energy to deviate the living entities from the path of self-realization.
It's like, if you want to be an illusion, I'll create a world that'll put you in illusion.
It is.
Continue.
Anyone, even my little kid says, Dad, I think I'm addicted to this. I think I've been, what does he say, Mayor? I'll say things like, I think I've had too much screen time. I think I'm getting addicted to this. I don't think it's good.
Very good. Very good.
They get some little blip of realization,
They suffer. They feel the distress.
They feel the distress of like this tamagoon.
Yeah. Wise little one there.
Anyone who is in this material world is extremely anxious to get more and more things for sense gratification. Actually, however, the purpose of life is not sense gratification, but self-realization.
Yeah.
Therefore, those who are too addicted to sense gratification are advised to practice the mystic yoga system or Ashtanga yoga system consisting of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and so on. In this way, one can control the senses. The purpose of controlling the senses is to stop one's implication in the cycle of birth and death. As Lord Rishabhadev says, I won't do the Sanskrit, I'll just do the translation. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of, there's the word, sinful activity or entangling activity. Distressful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body, which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent person to involve themselves again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another.
There you go.
Yeah. The one bad choice leads to further bad choices, leads to next life's bad choices.
In the cycle, you go through
It's
it again.
yeah, it's just like this infinity loop.
You got to break the cycle this year, Raghunath.
Let's break the cycle. You can do it quick. All you got to do is want it, Kaustubha. I'm going to encourage you.
Okay. Thank you.
You can do it.
All right.
You got to try a little harder.
Encourage me every day.
Try a little harder tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. You're
Thank
doing
you.
good today. Try harder tomorrow.
Thank you. Any takeaways?
Where does she
You wanna
come?
this way?
Miss Mara. Come over here, Miss Mara. Sit on Santa's lap. Yeah, come in the middle.
in the middle.
Who's mic doing it? All right. I've got a lot of takeaways today.
You got lots of take. I'm freezing in this room.
All right.
I wore shorts just because I was so hot. And now I'm freezing. You just can't beat it in the material world. No one gets a pass.
You're desiring cool, and now you're desiring heat.
Yeah.
Just learn to, Raghunath, just let it go. Just try a little harder. Try a little harder.
All right. Back to our takeaways. Snooze is the first step towards ruining your day.
Did you say that today?
I
Yeah,
did.
we started
I
with
did.
that.
I did.
Through detachment, we learn contentment.
Yep.
Success is being satisfied, living simply.
Their idea of success is all I wait. Their idea of success is all I detest. I say forget it. All they value today soon gets taken away. Don't they get it? They think that happiness can be purchased. I don't buy it anymore. Shelter, circa 1994.
The part of his hand.
Material achievements will slip away.
That would have been a good song. Material achievements slip away.
That'll be the next Shelter album. Internal satisfaction isn't determined by external circumstances.
Think about that, Kaustubha.
While you're trying a little harder.
Depend on Krishna and watch the magic unfold.
Tomorrow, Kaustubha. There's always tomorrow. It's always a day away.
Be free of distress. Don't take beyond your needs.
That's right. That was a good point.
Good point.
Self-realization, not sense gratification.
Good.
Break the cycle of bad choices.
My God.
And
That's it? I thought you had a whole bunch.
Got the music on there?
I do. You just gotta press play.
And
And once you get your Tittenhurst, you've got to worry about maintaining your Tittenhurst.
once you get your Tittenhurst, you got to worry about maintaining a Tittenhurst. All 17 rooms of Tittenhurst, 14 bathrooms.
Upstairs, downstairs. The
there's
staff,
Staff at Tittenhurst, the gardeners at Tittenhurst,
the hounds.
the hounds at Tittenhurst. Thanks everybody for joining us. I know we're playing whack-a-mole with the timing, but we're trying to keep it steady now. 6 a.m. Eastern time.
We got more people came. That's
Some came in.
Some